Trixie and Prince Charming. Written by Rixizu. Rixizu.
Lavok! We've got to run faster, Elle!
Trixie said between panting breaths.
She's almost on us!
The corridors went on forever with no end in sight. To a small filly like her, they seemed to go on into eternity. Ponies eeked in surprise as she ran under their legs. By the barest inch, she avoided colliding into a mare holding a stack of papers, and they scattered all over the floor. Trixie wanted to stop and apologize, but she just didn't have the time. The monster was almost on her, and her trusty stuffed elephant friend, Elle. A risky glance back showed the creature was almost on her now. Trixie pushed her legs even harder, screaming in horror as the thing closed in on her.
Why did this unequine monster have to be so fast? Gotcha!
The monster said as it took Trixie into its hoofs. Trixie struggled with all her might, but it was no use. The thing was too powerful. There was only one thing she could do. Trixie grabbed Elle off her back and threw her with everything she had.
Run for it, Elle! Save yourself!
At least one of them would survive this day. Elle landed on the ground a good distance from them, and Trixie let out a sigh of relief. Trixie turned back to her capturer and glared death.
You may have gotten me, but at least Elle will be free from your evil math problems, you sorcerer! Hilarious, Miss Lunamoon,
Miss Honeybee said, unamused.
Now stop struggling. Don't call me that,
Trixie said in protest. She hated when ponies addressed her by her last name.
It's Trixie Yerm. I'll call you whatever I want, Miss Lunamoon,
Miss Honeybee replied.
When you are done with this nonsense, let's get back to your homework. Make me,
Trixie replied in defiance.
You little...
Miss Honeybee said in a growl.
Is there a problem here, Honeybee?
A regal voice asked. Trixie turned from her glaring at her capturer to see Princess Luna walking towards them with Elle in her aura.
Your student is being quite the troublemaker again,
Miss Honeybee said, her voice becoming calm but less annoyed.
Is this true, Trixie?
Luna said in a voice that made Trixie's ears fall forward. She didn't know how, but somehow whenever the princess used that tone, it always made her feel guilty.
Oui,
she mumbled, not meeting her mentor's gaze.
She's refusing to do her math lesson,
Miss Honeybee said, smug in her victory.
It's just so boring,
Trixie said in protest.
I'd rather learn magic with you, princess. I know, Trixie,
Luna replied, her voice stern but kind.
But these are the essential basics you must learn too. Math, history, philosophy, science, and so on and so on. All are requirements of being my student. Honeybee is one of the finest tutors in Equestria. You could learn a lot from her. Fine!
It made no sense at all that she had to learn all that boring stuff. She decided to just agree with Luna, knowing from experience how pointless it would be to argue with her.
I don't know why you even bother with this little rascal. You should teach the filly to be more respectable.
Miss Honeybee gave the look almost every pony in the palace gave her. It told Trixie she didn't belong here and wasn't welcome. It told her she could run off and go back to whatever hole she came out of, all because she wasn't the rich daughter of the Duke or something or other. It seemed to Trixie that Princess Luna was the only one who treated her with respect, and as an equal. Luna gave out a laugh.
Oh, give it time, Honeybee. I seem to recall another one of my students that used to be just as rambunctious as Trixie. Her name was Orchard Blossom, and she grew up into the most refined pony I have ever met. She was the jewel of the night court, no pony more beautiful or sophisticated. She caught the eye of every pony whenever she entered a room. I have little doubt Trixie will one day grow up to be just the same. It can't happen soon enough if you ask me,
Miss Honeybee said with a sniff. Trixie frowned but said nothing. As usual, every pony thought they knew what was best for her. A small smile came to her lips. She wondered how Miss Honeybee would react if she found something interesting in her desk.
Let's get to work, young lady,
said Miss Honeybee.
I'll leave you to it.
Luna levitated Elle onto Trixie's back, and the filly gave Luna a thankful nod.
Au revoir, votre majesté!
I don't speak French. Trixie followed Miss Honeybee back to the classroom and sat in her seat.
Miss Luna Moon, I expect you to listen to every word I say, or expect another visit from the princess,
Miss Honeybee said, returning to her desk.
Yes, Miss Honeybee,
Trixie replied automatically.
And it's Trixie, damn it.
Miss Honeybee lifted her nose high into the air.
I hope you do. Misbehavior is improper coming from the princess's prize student. You represent not only yourself, but also the princess. Any funny business here will reflect poorly on Princess Luna. That includes speaking in French when it isn't called for. You're already hard enough to understand as it is with that accent of yours.
Trixie yawned.
Can we get with the lesson already? Very well.
Miss Honeybee's voice became tight.
Today, we will cover integers, and they are...
Trixie only half listened to the lesson and stared out the window, not paying much attention to her tutor as she imagined playing outside instead. It was such a nice day out. Why was she stuck in here?
That creature is a monster!
Honeybee stormed into Luna's private quarters. Luna fought back a sigh. 3 guesses the pony behind this.
What did Trixie do this time? She put earthworms in my desk! They ruined all my papers!
Honeybee replied.
Oh, she claims it wasn't her and that it was one of the servants playing a prank, but she catfooled me.
Luna thought it might have been a bad idea to hire Honeybee. Trixie's personality wasn't the most compatible with the tutors. The two had been at each other's throats since they first met.
You should get rid of her,
Honeybee said.
She doesn't deserve to live in the palace one bit.
Oh, Luna replied.
Are you saying I made a mistake?
Honeybee stepped back, her eyes like a frightened, concerned animal, realizing she went too far.
No, of course not, Princess. I was just saying that Miss Luna Moon might be better suited for a public school, that's all.
Luna sighed. She caught the meaning all too well. Trixie deserved to be with the other poor ponies, not with the esteemed elite. She received more than a little hushed criticism from her court about bringing in some pony of Trixie's background. Some of the nobles even had the nerve to assume that their foal deserved the place more. Viceroy Nightlight still bothered her about it, claiming his talented little filly Twilight Sparkle was far more suitable for the position. All this fussing and whining from the nobles because Trixie didn't come from money. The filly's hometown, Nay Orleans, might as well be Hicksville as far as they were concerned. It wasn't always so. Over the millennia, Luna had several students that came from almost the exact position Trixie did, and back then, the court cared little about such things. These days, the court had become so selfish and self-centered that they couldn't see beyond the walls of their luxurious manors. It distressed Luna how little the Night Corps cared about the common folk nowadays. This was why Luna brought Trixie in. The Night Court needed fresh blood, and Luna knew in her heart and gut that Trixie was exactly what the Night Court needed. The filly had a certain magnetism to her, and Luna planned to bring out that talent regardless of what any pony said. Her entire court could rally against her, and she still wouldn't budge. Honeybee coughed.
There's also the fact that she isn't socializing with the other members of the court. At state functions, she plays in the corner with her stuffed animal instead of forming alliances and making friendships that will aid her when she takes on a more prominent position in the court.
As much as Luna hated to admit it, Honeybee was right about this. Unlike Orchard Blossom, Trixie wasn't a social pony. She had the charisma and ambition to be sure, but she was more introverted than her bombastic personality might show. Trixie would need those allies if she wished to become an important member of the Night Corps. On the other hoof, Trixie was still a little filly and hadn't adapted to life in the palace yet. And no matter how much she tries to fit in, Trixie will always be a poor rube to the members of the court, princess is student or not, a dark thought told her, though Luna banished it out of her mind in an instant. No, she couldn't think like that, even if Trixie was having trouble getting along with the other young members of the Night Court. She would just have to push her student along a little, that's all. There had to be some in the Night Court that would welcome Trixie with open hoofs. Not every member was obsessed with wealth and prestige. A gas lamp flashed into the light in her head, and Luna flashed a smile.
Didn't Duke in Prestige Blueblood have a little cult about Trixie's age? Prince, was it?
Luna hadn't seen the little cult much in her mingling with his family, but he seemed like a nice boy, and his parents were well known for their kindness and generosity. Of all the Night Court, she suspected they would be the most likely to accept Trixie in her checkered past. She clapped her hooves together in glee. This was perfect. A childhood friend in the court was exactly what Trixie needed. A lifelong companion that would always stay by her side, and who knew, maybe it would grow into something more. He might even become her Prince Charming. Princess Luna giggled at her clever pun.
Princess?
Honeybee asked. Luna coughed into her hoof.
Nothing, just focusing on Trixie's studies, Honeybee. Let me worry about Trixie's future in the Night Court.
When Honeybee left, Luna called for her secretary, Neat Freak. He was an earth pony of middle years with a gray mane and a green coat. He wore a simple but well-maintained black suit, and his short, cropped mane never had a hair out of place in the many years she'd known him. "Yes, Your Majesty," Neat Freak said as the princess entered her office only a few seconds later, prompt as usual. Sometimes she wondered if her assistant leaned against the door, eagerly awaiting her summons. It baffled her how he always seemed to know when she was about to call.
Get me some parchment. There's a letter I wish to write.
Trixie fidgeted next to Luna's side. Her coat and mane gleamed in the light of the throne room. Luna had insisted she look her best in front of the Blueblood family. More than once, the princess stressed the importance of a good first impression. It was all nonsense to Trixie, but she humored her teacher. At least she didn't have to wear one of those accursed uncomfortable dresses. She hated them with a passion. They were hard to breathe in and even more impossible to move in. Elle sat on her usual place on her back. Trixie refused to go anywhere without her, and the princess relented after some arguing. After an eternity of endless waiting, a steward announced Blueblood's arrival.
About freaking time.
Trixie craned her neck to get a better look at them. The father was a mammoth of a stallion in both size and girth. Some pony needed to cut down on the cake, though she had to admit he wore his black waistcoat well, and there was an air of dignity to him. He had a coat so white it hurt to look at it, and his silver mane floated like a wave behind him. His wife was a severe mare, nothing beautiful exactly, but handsome with sharp features and longer than normal muzzle. She wore her blonde mane in one of those styles of the days and had a yellow coat. Last was their son. He was tall for his age, and Trixie guessed he stood almost a head higher than her and had to be at least a few years older than her. He shared his father's coat and his mother's mane. The colt eyed her with curiosity. All three were unicorns. They bowed as they met their princess.
Greetings, Viscount Blueblood and Lady Prestige Blueblood.
Luna bowed her head in respect.
"It's been far too long, Princess," Duke replied. "Your summons are always welcome."
"Indeed," Prestige said. "An honor as always, Your Grace." She spotted Trixie next to her teacher and gave her a warm smile. "Oh, and who is this next to you?" Luna beamed.
This is my newest student, Trixie Lunamoon.
"Whoa, isn't she just the most adorable little thing?"
Prestige said.
"You're even cuter than the stories say."
This took Trixie by surprise. She wasn't sure what to say.
Mercy, Madame!
What an adorable accent! I can tell already you will do great things, Trixie.
Prestige replied. The Duke laughed. Always one for the melodramatics as usual.
When I see true talent, how can I keep my mouth shut?
Trixie expected a scowl from their eyes, but both looked at her with friendliness and warmth. It was a nice change from all other looks most adults gave her. Their son, on the other hoof, kept a neutral expression the entire time.
It's nice to meet you, young lady.
Duke pushed his son forward with his snout.
There is some pony I would like for you to meet. This is my son, Prince.
Trixie blinked.
Prince?
Since when did Equestria have a prince? Was he some long-lost relative of Princess Luna? How can he be a prince when his father was a duke? Or was his mother a princess? Duke gave out a hearty laugh.
Oh, I see your confusion. In my family, we name our children after titles. It gives them something to aspire to.
That's kind of weird, but okay. Would this mean that this cult is Duke Prince Blueblood? Now that is just bizarre.
Say hello, Prince.
Duke gave his son an encouraging nudge.
Hello.
Prince said, extending his hoof.
Hello.
Trixie gave it an eager handshake.
Huh? Did he just recoil from my touch? Nah, I'm imagining it.
I'm sure you two will grow to be the best of friends,
Prestige said. Now off with you two, Duke said with a wave of his hoof. We have matters of state we wish to discuss with the princess. We don't want to bore you with the details.
Sweet! Anything to avoid boring grown-up talk. Okay.
Trixie and Prince said in unison.
So, what do you want to do first?
Trixie asked as they walked down the castle's hallways. What do you suggest? Prince raised an eyebrow. Trixie jumped up and down.
There's the best playground in all of Equestria. It's over by the park up the road.
If you insist, Prince replied. Trixie got a distinct impression that the cult would rather be somewhere else. They didn't seem to want to engage with her at all. Already, she felt a disliking towards him.
No, you promised the princess you would try to become friends with him. Trixie, hold yourself together. Just give it time. He'll warm up to you, I'm sure.
How do you plan to even get there? Prince asked. We were told several times not to leave the castle. I'm a very important pony. What if some pony tries to foal nap me? Trixie rolled her eyes.
I sneak out all the time and no pony has ever attacked me.
And how do you avoid the guards exactly?
I just so happen to be a magician in training, and my grandpeer was the greatest magician who's ever lived, the great and powerful Trixie! Woohoo!
Trixie stood on her back hooves and spread her hooves. Never heard of him. Trixie's eye twitched. Did this guy live in a cave or something?
As I was saying, I'm a magician in training, and sneaking about happens to be my specialty.
Trixie puffed out her chest in pride. And they never catch you?
No, I know all the guards' routines and routes.
Even the prince looked surprised by that one. We'll be out of here in no time then, Urim?
Yep. Yep.
Well, lead the way then. Prince's face turned to a smirk. If you can. Oh! Sorry. It took them almost an eternity to sneak outside. Trixie underestimated how much Prince would slow her and Elle down. He had no patience and couldn't wait for the guards to pass before moving. More than once, Trixie had to force him down so he didn't get spotted. One time, a guard did spot them, but Trixie used her quick thinking to make it look like they were playing tag instead. The guard bought it and went on his way. It was all too easy. One guard tried following them, but Trixie used the trick the princess taught her and circled back so many times that the guard got confused and lost them. Soon enough, they snuck out one of the guards' posts to the outside world.
Voila!
Trixie extended her hooves to the playground in question. It was the biggest playground Trixie had ever seen, with a mind-boggling amount of equipment to play on. What was fun about them was the fact that they all looked like animals. Her favorite looked like an enormous alligator with a wide-open mouth you could crawl inside. All the trees in the surrounding park were very easy and fun to climb as well. The park even had a little lake that ducks liked to visit. Luna liked to go up to the lake and feed them pieces of bread whenever they came to the park. Though, the ducks never liked Trixie for some reason and always tried to bite her when she got too close. The place was perfect in Trixie's opinion, far better than the parks they had back at our hometown of New Orleans. The park was almost empty due to the late hour. Luna was a weirdo that slept during the day and did all the night court stuff during the night. Worse, the princess forced Trixie to follow it as well. It made it hard to play to the other foals when Luna forced her to stay awake so late. She was often up at hours far past foals' bedtimes. If the park impressed Prince, he didn't show it. Trixie fought back her annoyance and reminded herself of her promise. "What do you want to do?" Prince asked with little enthusiasm. Trixie thought about it. She looked at the park, giving everything in it a closer look and careful consideration. She eyed the trees and broke out into a wide grin.
Let's play over by the trees!
Trixie said, overcome with the urge to climb at the moment, and she was good at it too. She prided herself that she could climb almost anything. "Must we?" Blueblood replied.
And why not?
Trixie fought back her annoyance. How could any pony not like climbing trees? "I'll get leaves in my mane, and look at how tall they are. What if we break a leg?" Trixie snorted.
You're a worrywart.
Prince scratched his muzzle, not sure if he'd just been insulted or not. She ran towards one of her favorite trees in the park. The oak stood tall and proud and was one of the tallest trees in the park. It had 4 thick branches that sprouted from the trunk. It used to have 5, but one broke from a particularly windy day. She grabbed the lowest branch and pulled herself up, careful to keep Elle from falling off her back. She climbed up to the highest part of the branch and looked out at the park. It was so pretty from up here. She sat Elle on the next branch so they could enjoy the view together. After a moment, she noticed that some pony was missing. She looked down and saw Prince under her.
Hey, aren't you coming? The view is pretty good.
No, I'm good.
Blueblood replied, and Trixie fought back her annoyance again. What was with this colt? Did he like standing around and doing nothing? Not once had he tried to engage with her. What was the princess thinking, making them play together?
No, remember, you made a promise. You said you would make an effort by it. So, your parents seem nice,
Trixie said, throwing out the first random thing she could think of. Trixie didn't have parents herself. Her mom died when she was little, and her father disappeared to who knows where. Her best guess is he got napped by evil monsters. Why else would he just leave like that? Trixie did, however, have an aunt, Moonslinger, and uncle, Skyshaper, who were just as good as real parents. They loved her like she was one of her many cousins. She missed them all the time, but Luna allowed her to visit them once a month, so it was all good.
They are the best parents a pony could ask for,
Prince replied, this time showing some real enthusiasm for once.
Not only are they fabulously wealthy, but they give me everything I could ever want. I have so many toys that I never have to play with them more than once.
How great for you.
Trixie couldn't imagine having that many toys. Where would a pony even keep all of them? Did they get thrown out after every use? This was all very confusing.
That way, I don't have to carry around a filthy rag along with me wherever I go.
Trixie gritted her teeth at the obvious slight against Elle and hugged her close. So what if she wasn't new? She had been a birthday gift from her aunt and was her most prized possession. At least she had something she valued. How dare this colt say something like that?
Promise, 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 promise. Remember your promise.
Promises to the princess weren't to be broken lightly.
Whatever. Let's do something else.
Trixie jumped down from out the tree with L in hoof.
Very well. Prince rolled his eyes. What else?
Let's play by the shoot.
Trixie didn't wait for a reply and jumped into the play area, causing a giant explosion of sand. She giggled and stomped around, enjoying its feel under her hoofs.
What are you doing?
Prince asked, sounding aghast.
You're getting sand everywhere.
Trixie blinked.
So?
Look at you,
Prince said, turning his nose up at her.
You've ruined your coat and mane.
Trixie looked at herself, and sure enough, she and Elle had specks of sand all over them, ruining all the work the groomers did earlier that day.
So?
I'm not going in there. It's filthy.
Trixie snorted.
What? Do you just not play then?
First no climbing trees and then this. Was he one of those boring book types that read all day?
The playground at my mansion.
Prince put an extra emphasis on the word mansion to show how much richer he was than her.
Uses rubber far more sanitary and clean. Oh!
Prince yelped out in surprise as Trixie grabbed him and threw him face first into the sand. Trixie puffed out her chest.
There! Now you don't have to worry about getting dirty anymore.
Prince spat out sand from his mouth, horrified that she ruined his beautiful coat, and glared at her.
How dare you?
Trixie rolled her eyes.
Get over it. Can we go play already?
Get over it?
A vein appeared on Prince's temple.
I don't think you understand your place, peasant.
Oh, and what's that?
Trixie's voice became dangerous. Prince stood up and dusted himself off.
Ponies like myself don't play in filth like you, commoners. We are above such things. Why the princess chose a wretch like you to be our student, I will never know.
That's it. I'm done.
Trixie pawed at the sand in irritation. The colt was asking for it so hard.
If you're so great, then why do you have such a stupid mane?
Trixie replied.
Take that, loser.
What? The best hairstylist in all of Equestria styled this mane.
They're obviously blind then.
Trixie's mouth twisted into a smirk.
It makes you look like a doofus, you imbecile!
At least I care about my looks, Prince said. I don't love to wallow in filth like you.
Oh, so you admit to looking like a doofus then?
Trixie pumped a hoof into the air with triumph.
What?
You didn't deny it. Score 1 for the Trixies back home.
This flummoxed Prince for a moment.
Well, you didn't deny that you like to bathe in filth.
You're right, I don't,
Trixie replied.
I have a life unlike you, and you know, I know how to have fun. I don't whine like a little foal after getting a speck of dirt on me.
That makes you more pig than pony then.
Prince turned his nose up at her like she smelled something awful.
We should call you Trixie Lula Swine instead.
Trixie felt her blood boil. Ponies used her last name to mock her enough already.
Oh yeah? Then you're Prince Blueblood.
Oh, she beamed with pride, coming up with that witty retort and nickname.
Well, you have a stupid accent that makes you almost impossible to understand,
Prince said.
It's like talking with a cave pony.
What?
Trixie forced herself to calm down.
I have the bestest accent. French is the highest language of class and sophistication.
Prince snorted.
It's not the French. It's the hick accent that comes along with it.
Trixie's blood boiled.
You sound like an upper-class twit.
They growled into each other's faces, now glaring hate at each other. Never in Trixie's life had she ever met a pony so full of himself as this colt. Why did the princess even think she wanted him to be his friend? Her friend. Fuck. She wanted nothing to do with this prissy jerk. Prince's angry face turned into a smirk as if he had already won.
You're a total fold, Trixie Lula Pig. You've met a powerful enemy today. My family is one of the most powerful members of the Night Court.
Ooh, so scary!
Trixie replied in a mocking tone.
You don't scare me. You'll always be nothing but a lizard doofus.
Watch yourself, Trixie.
Prince's face made a scowl.
You've made an enemy for life.
Trixie let out a snort.
Whatever.
Her casual dismissal of his threat almost set her opponent into a blind fit of rage.
Let's go, Elle. We've got some super fun slides waiting for us. We're actually gonna have some fun, unlike some other ponies that could be mentioned.
Trixie gave her new enemy for life a grin of victory before going deep into the play area. She could almost hear Prince fume in useless rage behind her. It was fun to put that pony in his place. The Night Court has too many ponies like him. She sat Elle in front of her ready to go down one of her favorite slides. She liked it, you know, the way the slide curved around and how it looked like the head of a giraffe. Prince Blueblood was already long gone from her mind as she screamed in delight going down the slide. The door squeaked behind Trixie as she closed it behind her. It irritated her that the door of her secret passageway made so much noise when she used it. That was a pony to stealthily enter the castle that way. It wasn't really a secret passageway, and in reality, just an out-of-the-way guard entrance that ponies almost never use. Trixie liked to imagine it being her secret way into the castle. The late hour meant the castle's corridors were almost empty and it wouldn't be long until the sun rose, and it was her bedtime. But Trixie did her best to stay hidden. She used any large object in her path to obscure her from sight. During her playtime, she lost track of time and went past curfew. Her plan was to sneak into her room and pretend she had always been there. The odds weren't good that it would work, but she had to try. And Trixie squealed in triumph as she saw the door to her room. Just a little longer, and she would be home free.
There you are, you little scoundrel!
Before Trixie could do anything, Miss Honeybee grabbed her from behind and lifted her into the air. Elle fell off her back and onto the ground.
Hey, what gives?
Trixie squirmed in her grasp. The tutor wasn't being gentle with her this time and grabbed her far too tight.
Sneaking in your room late at night again?
Miss Honeybee said.
Like you weren't in enough trouble. Let's go. The princess wants to see you now.
Mrs. Honeybee's tone left no room for argument. Trixie deflated.
Fine, just let me get Elle. No time for that.
Miss Honeybee opened the door to Trixie's room and kicked Elle inside.
Hey!
Trixie said in outrage. How dare she treat her best friend like that? Miss Honeybee didn't listen and carried Trixie to the princess's private chambers. Trixie gave up struggling at this point. It didn't seem worth the trouble.
This proves what I always said about you,
Miss Honeybee said.
A little wretch that never once deserved her place. It wouldn't surprise me if Princess Luna threw you out back to where you belong. Ah, here we are. What? No, the princess would never do that, right?
Panic filled Trixie's mind. She didn't think she could ever bear the shame if Luna banished her from the castle forever. What she did wasn't that bad, was it? All she did was have a fight with that super snooty Prince Blueblood and break curfew, she guessed. The sweat formed at her brow and she saw them approach the door of Princess Luna's private chambers. Miss Honeybee stepped up to the door and knocked. They waited in silence, and Trixie's heart filled with both dread and anticipation.
Come in,
Princess Luna said.
Well, get going!
Miss Honeybee unceremoniously dropped Trixie on the floor. Trixie hissed in pain before glaring at her tutor. She turned her attention to the door and opened it. It took all her courage to enter.
Here goes. This might be the last time I'll ever see this room.
Princess Luna sat on a pile of cushions next to her bed. Regal as always, the scope of Luna's room had always impressed her. It had a domed roof with a depiction of the night sky on it. Somehow it changed over the year to match the current night sky. The furnishings were simple but luxurious. The princess kept her room somewhat tidy but had little trinkets scattered everywhere. It was a dangerous place to walk about sometimes and made it hard to avoid stepping on something. The princess liked to collect odd toys, particularly anything that wound up or made noise. Trixie's ears flattened, and she approached her teacher like one might approach a dangerous animal.
I'm in trouble, aren't I?
Trixie asked. Yes, you are. Sit. Luna left no room for an argument, so Trixie did as the princess instructed. The princess looked down at her student with her "You are in deep trouble, young lady" look. It made Trixie feel even worse.
While I was talking with the Bluebloods, their son ran to his parents crying and covered with sand, Luna said. He told us you bullied him. You pushed him to a sandpit and called him names. That isn't what happened,
Trixie said in protest. A colt like him? Crying? Please. They were obviously fake tears meant to gain sympathy so they would buy his lies easier.
Tell your side of the story, Luna replied. I find it best to hear both sides of the story before rendering judgment.
Trixie told her version of what happened, how much of a jerk Prince was, and how he refused to be nice to her, and how silly it was that he freaked out when he got sand on him. And she recited their argument to the best of her abilities, and included all the mean names he called her. Luna listened in silence. She sighed when Trixie finished her story.
So he wasn't wrong then,
Luna said with a shake of her head.
What? But he started it,
Trixie said in protest. How did she come to that conclusion? Luna held up a hoof.
Though his behavior was less than proper, you didn't have to throw him into the sand because he didn't agree with you. Come on, it was just sand. Not to him.
Luna let out a sigh.
I expect better of you, Trixie. Whether or not you intended it, you bullied him.
Trixie's ears flattened even harder, and she looked down in shame. Tears gathered at the tip of her eyes.
Does this mean I won't be your student anymore?
Much to Trixie's surprise, her teacher laughed.
Of course not.
Trixie looked up at Luna and blinked, confused by this turn of events. Luna put a comforting wing over her student and gave her a warm smile.
I would never kick you out over a little mistake. If I did that, I wouldn't have any pony left in this world to be my student. Every pony makes mistakes. You're young, Trixie. I don't expect you to be perfect or not make errors in judgment. What's important, though, is that you learn from this so you don't repeat the mistakes of the past.
Trixie's heart lightened. Glad the princess wasn't mad at her and that she was able to stay our student.
I guess I did kind of act a little mean,
she admitted begrudgingly. Not that she would ever be friends with Prince or ever want to see him again. Trixie nodded in approval.
The toughest thing in all the world is admitting when you're wrong. Our pride wants us to overlook our mistakes and faults.
Okay.
I expect you to give Prince Blueblood an apology in person,
Luna said. Trixie grumbled to herself. She saw this coming. She had hoped to send him a letter and that would be it and never see his stupid face again. Oh well.
Fine! And as punishment, I'm grounding you for a month,
Luna continued.
No dessert, and you will be confined to the castle.
Trixie's heart twisted, and her eyes widened in horror. A month was almost an eternity. How was she to survive? How could any pony endure that? Sometimes the princess could be a real monster. Fuck! Okay, it's the end of the fanfic anyway. Luna's expression turned to that of amusement.
That's what you get for calling some pony names, Trixie. I expect you to be on your better behavior from now on. Yes, Princess Luna,
Trixie said with little enthusiasm.
Now get to bed,
Luna said.
You have a long day of studies ahead of you. This time, I will ignore your breach of curfew, but next time, I won't be so lenient. The night!
Trixie left for her room. She saw the sun was very close to rising at this point. She thanked everything good and holy that Miss Honeybee wasn't there to taunt her. She'd been through enough as it was. Trixie picked up Elle from where that heartless monster that was Miss Honeybee had kicked her and sat on her bed. She got ready for bed and did all the tedious things Princess Luna required of her to do each night. Trixie loathed brushing her teeth. She threw up in the covers and snuck under them with Elle by her side. The day's events flew through her mind as she tried to sleep.
Was I really that mean to Prince Blueblood?
Trixie had to admit that she had been more than a little bit of a jerk. Something about him set her off. She hated being looked down on, hated it with her entire being. Still, what she did was wrong, and the princess was right. She would have to work harder at ignoring ponies like Prince. That would show them. She wouldn't care what they thought of her, and she would make them know that. Besides, she didn't need Prince or any pony like him. She would find friends that liked her for who she is and didn't give a toss about her status or fancy titles. Elle wouldn't end up being her only friend in Canterlot, right? She fought back a wave of homesickness. Things didn't seem as lovely when she lived in New Orleans, with her cousins always there to keep her company, especially her big bro/favorite cousin Limelight. No, she couldn't think like that. She planned to rise above them all, and no pony would dare look down on her then. Hey, she might even be the princess one day. Luna was getting kinda old and had to be at least 1,000,000 years old, right? She had to be in retirement age by now. Comforted in her new resolution, she snuggled against Elle and went to sleep.
Alright, boys, that's it for this fanfiction. How long was this? 40 minutes? Wow, I did not think this was gonna be this long. How many words does this have? Let's check. Hold up. This story was called Trixie and Prince Charming, I think. Words 6,265. Yeah. Damn, this shit was uploaded on October 1st, 2018. Damn, that means somebody already probably, Well, anyway, thank you guys for watching the video. If you liked the video, leave a like. No, this isn't a voice changer. I can, just do that because I got magical powers. Yes, what else should I say here? Earn a lot of money for the Apple family.